Hey everybody, Matt here with Take Roads Less Traveled, and today on the Chevy Avalanche we are going to be reinstalling a transmission auxiliary cooler. Now I say reinstall because I had this on the truck once already and then I had to get some transmission work done, so I had to take it off just because I wanted to make sure that when the work got done everything was functioning properly with the cooling system, make sure it was staying at factory temps, all that good stuff. So I'm re-putting the cooler back on. I have a Derale 8000 series. The link is going to be in the description below for you to get it, along with the port that you're going to need for your radiator, because GM's use a specific style. And we're going to get right into it. It's really simple, won't take long at all. Alright, so first things first is we actually have to remove this plastic cover right here in order to get down to where the grill is and take the grill off. All it is it's just held on by 7 of these little push pins. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are real easy to get up. You can use a flathead screwdriver, get right underneath here, and then pop it out. Or you can use one of these little things, and this is a pair of pliers specifically designed for these. You can just get underneath here, pop that out, move that out of the way, and then you can come right underneath and lifts it right out. So super easy. So gonna get the other 6 of those out, and then we can pull this plastic cover off. Alright, so with all those little tabs taken out, you can just pull this off, set it to the side. Now we can get our grill off. This is real easy. All you're going to do is you're going to look on both sides and you're going to see that there is a tab. There's one right here, there's one right down there, same style, on both sides. Again, here, and then right down there. There's another tab. You need to press those to get it out, and then there's little tabs on the corners here that you have to gently pull out. Be careful on these ones because with age that plastic can become real brittle and can break off, and you don't want to do that. So be real careful when you're pulling those ends out. Alright, with the grill released from those tabs, you can just pull it straight off and you're left with this big ugly front end now. Now you'll notice that I have already fastened some brackets onto that cross member. That is where I had installed it previously, so I wasn't going to take the brackets off, and all I had to do is unbolt the cooler. But you can see it's just an S bracket here, S bracket there, to create some space in between the transmission cooler and the condenser for the AC, and then an L bracket down here with holes drilled into all of them where the cooler itself is going to mount. So as for the cooler itself, this is the Derale 8000. It's not a real big one, but it's just enough to bring your temps down a little bit. And I've already hooked up about 3 feet of hose to both ports so that we can get this hooked up. And then the other thing I've already done is this is that adapter for the GM radiators that you're going to need. Again, link is in the description below to this piece as well, and everything's ready to go and get hooked up. So first thing we're going to do is simply bolt the cooler back onto those brackets, and then we'll deal with hooking up the lines. Alright, so you guys can see that I have everything hooked up right here, and everything's bolted in place. Lines are connected, ready to run. Easiest way to run these lines is to actually come up through this little section right here, right where this AC condenser hooks up, and then bring it back underneath the horse collar here, and then you'll be able to hook into your lines here. Now this is where that GM port comes in handy, because on the radiator you have this little retainer clip inside this port right here that you need to pull out. Let me see if I can get that in focus. There we go. So I'm just going to use a little scribe tool and come in underneath, and you got to pop that up and out. This can be a little bit of a pain. Here we go. And now we'll be able to pull that out, and then the line will pull straight out. Now you want to make sure you're actually doing this with the top line on the radiator, not the bottom one, because the top one is the feed into the transmission cooler that's built into the radiator, and we want that to still work in conjunction with the with this auxiliary cooler. So what we're going to end up doing is where that port is on that line, that's going to go into this plug here, this cooling port on the radiator housing. That hose will come around, let the fluid come through this cooler, then it'll come out the bottom line, come back around, and we're actually going to put that bottom line onto this line right here, and we'll clamp it on. And what that'll do then is that will allow it to where the pressure will run through the auxiliary cooler, come through that feed line into the factory cooler, and then back to the transmission. So we're actually having 2 coolers for this system rather than just running the auxiliary, because the problem when you only run the auxiliary is that you actually don't get enough air draw, especially if you're in slow traffic, to keep that transmission cool. This simply adds to it and makes it so that you're working in conjunction with the factory radiator setup, which just helps you out even more. So we're gonna pull that little retainer clip out, pop that line off, and then get our lines ran. All right, so a little bit of a squeeze. It'd be a lot easier if you take the air box out first, but you can see right here that I have the that port put back in, and that clip is sitting right there. That little retainer clip is sitting in place. Pull this in, and you can just do a quick little tug on it, make sure you're good on that. And then you can see where, so this line, which is, so we'll start from the system. So comes up comes out of the transmission, comes up your metal cooler lines, which are right there. You can see that bottom one leading into the radiator. That top one comes up, and that top one now feeds into this rubber hose right there, where that clamp is. Comes around through the collar here, the horse collar there. I've got it zip tied to the AC condenser line just so it doesn't move around too much. That now comes down, feeds into the bottom of the cooler, cycles through, comes back, and then feeds into the factory radiator cooler, which then forces everything down to the transmission. So now it's just putting the grill back on and everything, but before we do that, we're gonna start it up, check for any leaks or anything like that, make sure everything's good, because last thing we want is to be spewing transmission fluid all over the place. And once we get that double checked, we'll button it up. Alright, so I've been driving for about 40 minutes now. You can see that my transmission temperature is only at 150 degrees, so that is fantastic, and that is actually more than I was expecting. As far as a reduction, it's a lower temperature than I was expecting from this Derale, now that everything is as it should be with my transmission after getting it back from the shop and everything. So this is definitely an investment you should look at for your Avalanches. It has dropped my transmission temperatures about 40 degrees compared to normal without it. So definitely look at it, and like I said, link for both the cooler and for that hose adapter for the radiator are in the description below. So hope this helps, and always remember, take the roads less traveled.